Bantry Bayside comes a small man in front of me. My first notion was a robber, but I realised he was a wee bit of a fella and I didn't see a weapon. His head stayed in shadow, so I didn't get a good look. I saw some kind of shiny tunic. I stopped and straddled that bike, my chest heaving, the fear fist wanting to run down my leg. I held it in and waited, wondering what to do. Now, whether I was lucky or stupid or touched, I'll leave to you. All of a sudden, over what seemed like air, he pulls out a fiddle and a bow and starts to play. Oh, the music, Brendan, it was the most plentiful of airs of lonesomeness, of longing and loss. The saddest and the most magnificent music that ever passed a mortal's ear. And then my adult brain knew what I was listening to one of them. Call them fairies, call them spirits. The fair bullock of the Tuatha De Danann, one of the old ones, the people from the other world. He turned and walked the narrow patch in front of me, playing that music. I've never heard the likes of it since, and I don't suppose any human soul will. It brought the water out of me teeth, so it did, and I cried, oh how I cried. I was bawling like an abandoned orphan, walking the bike, following him without any thought to the contrary. I trailed him, must have been about 2 miles or more, although I couldn't have told you, I was in such a state. Then he stopped. We stood, he's some 3 or 4 yards or so behind him, nothing stirring. His extraordinary music filled the silence. The rock seemed to soften and knotted oaks came unbent by either magic or his persuasive sound. We stayed for what might have been 5 minutes or maybe 10. His playing had me tranced. We were by a fine, flat field, 10 acres or more, rare in that desolate and forlorn place. I finally had enough sense to peep over to the bushes and ran off to the far corner. In the bright moonlight, something was moving. I was in a fierce fright. My legs stone stuck in the ground. It must have been the music, you see.
This music, could you get someone to put it on in the same way? Maybe even a note or two.
Can you copy the sunset? No, not a hope in hell. Anyway, I catch sight of lights, a great number, and something being carried in a way which I couldn't quite make out. The glow went far, at least a mile, weaving and bobbing, coming into the field. Suddenly, the field stood full of wee people, in the same shiny garb as the fiddler. So many you couldn't stick a sparrow's feather between them. The girls, the women, the fairest you ever laid your eyes on, Brendan. Like to take the air out of your lungs with their dainty splendour. No mother's son in his wildest dreams would imagine such vision. A woman, beautiful, clad in white, walked around the fiddler and up to me. She spoke in the Irish and it flowed like a gentle stream.
They want you to stay here for a while, be their guest. They have reasons for your presence.
I tried to throw off her charm and threatened her lilting phrases. Ha! I all said, also in the Irish, I will be backside, I've no wish to be here alone this night. She put her hands to her hips and laughed a full sweet laugh.
Well, Finbar Hanrahan, nevertheless, it is as their guest you will remain. Some things must be seen and remembered.
Directly as her words passed, the wind growled loose and blind. I began to hear this rattle, and then a dreadful thunder. Over that shattering sound, the fairy fiddler played a forlorn, soul-sending music. The wild echoes cleaved through the sighing night.
Were you afraid?
I cowered beside her, stifling a pair. I had no craving to be in that place, and I couldn't move my limbs. They must have put me in some kind of daze or a spell. I watched them tread by without heed, row on row of dark, silent faces. Their slipping and loud breathing gave a low rhythm to their task. What they carried was 9 ridges and 9 furrows long, and it seemed a full 15 minutes for it all to pass. I imagined I was seeing the Quishta Boher, the fairy's carriage. That's what I believe. The legends had it made out of wood, but it seemed to be made from other material, strange like it was. The woman let a little cackle out.
You're making a wonder of their technique and skill, Finbar.
I was regaining my wits, so I asked her who they were and what name did she go by.
Oh, you know them by many names, Finbar. for they are the ancient ones, the first ones, the fair Bullock. Who I am is of no significance. I am a banshee.
Brendan, my heart jumped into my throat when she said that. A banshee? I'd have rather face a regiment of black and tans. I was doing my I confess and my heartily sorrows a mile a minute, I tell you. I thought my time had come.
A banshee.
How can you write of our folklore so unknowing? The banshee warns of impending death or doom, you don't. But you're not waiting, not keening, I lured him to her. Again, she gave out a thrilling laugh.
A magical coincidence, Finbar. An unaware young man rode his bicycle on a deserted path late at night and stumbled into an extraordinary event. I'm sure we're all glad for it. I am here to sing for them.
Why, I asked her, are they dying? Impetuous I was. She eyed me. The laughter fled from her eyes.
No, Finbar, it is in its own way worse. They're leaving, and the poorer we'll all be for it.
The fiddler stopped and a quiet rolled across the field as the banshee said in a sing-song voice and felt modern and sounded ancient.
A long time ago, before your kind ever set foot here, the fair Bullock came from a far place. They travelled all our roads and never did harm to a living creature. They're not of our soil, but have come to cherish it, and to cherish those who hold to the old ways and to the old tongue. Great changes are coming to Ireland, and the fair Bullock feel it is time for them to go on. The old wisdom will stop being passed on. The believers in our ways will be considered old-fashioned and uneducated in the swirl of what is to come.
You're drifting, Gramps.
I get Nicholas stick out. Like the O'Donnell geese gone by fire and sword and banishment those centuries before, the fair Bullock were ready to take their leave. The music wafted again in the night, a soft, sweet air filled with promise and despair and regret. Caught in the moment, the tears once more coursing down my face, I said to the one, bring myself with you.
Then why would they do so, Finbar? You are not of them, nor are we. I and my kind shall be here. But look you beyond that hill.
What I saw and heard, Brendan, was the stuff of myth and magic. A bellowing of bullocks and a warbling of blackbirds and a croaking of ravens filled the night. All at once on the surrounding ridge stood in the moonlight a band of what somehow I knew was the Tuatha De Danann, in full array, down from their place in the fairy regions to bid farewell to their ancient foe. With a blast of horns I saw one of the cohorts separate himself and walk towards the fair Bullock. As he came closer, something sparkled to my eyes. It was his hand. By the 16 balls of the 12 apostles, Brendan, it was silver.
A silver hand.
If you had an exuberant of wit, boyo, you'd know. If you knew your country's culture as well as you know every flapper in Dublin, you'd know. You'd know in a place in Dublin minute that no other than Nuada Argetlam, Nuada of the Silver Hand, the High King of the Tuatha De Danann. I'm trying.
Brendan stands and goes up to the bar to fetch another round.
How drunk was my grandfather in that field? Was it some bad dream held in his heart for all these years?
He gets the drinks and puts them on the table.
Alright. What happened?
Well now, accompanied by this tuneful tumult, I watched Nuada walk to the Cuis de Boher. He turned from it and faced the fair Bullock. Bowed his head in deference as an honoured adversary, raised his silver hand in a simple, elegant farewell gesture, and began walking to his people. And then the banshee began their song. It started as a lament. The words and the wailing tone made my spirit sink lower than any drink could cure. I trembled with grief as I watched the fair Bullock wordlessly enter their craft. I was a mere man, standing alone and earthbound, sole witness to the departure of the sky-born gods. The banshee song shifted from one of lament to one of grateful farewell as the last of them entered and the opening seal shut and their vessel ascended.
Ascended, like Mary the Virgin Mother?
Don't be sacrilegious.
I'm sorry, Gramps. How did the ship rise then?
Well, you can talk of technology, Brendan, or you can talk of magic. Some force lifted that craft and made it silently rise and fade from sight. As it rose, the two heads lay down and faded from view, and I was left alone with the first banshee.
Your initial task is near as close, Finbar. See you how the hand of the fairy folk has been? A part of us has left, but more remain. On their thrones and in their halls and with their chariots,